Hey there, friends and enemies, Joper here again, and today I've got another Destiny 2 Titan build for you guys. This is my Void build I've been using to easily clear tier 3s of Altars of Summoning with randoms, no problem. It is a ton of fun and I very much enjoy it. It's really focused on Doomfang Pauldron and Graviton Lance as the exotics, but I'm going to jump into the full build here real quick. So, first off, we've got the Sentinel Shield, whatever barricade and jump you want. I'm running Shield Bash. I actually prefer it with this build quite a bit. You're going to get an overshield pretty consistently. You're going to suppress enemies. And because you have an overshield and I'm also getting Devour, I'm going to be able to stay alive very easily, even when I'm using my Shield Bash. So it's a lot of fun and I really enjoy it. I'm also rocking Vortex Grenade because in my opinion it's the best of all the Void Grenades in PvE. I'm running Bastion and Offensive Bulwark. The reason being, Bastion gives me overshield really consistently, which is nice and helps me stay alive, especially in harder content. But Offensive Bulwark not only gives me an additional shield throw, but also gets me to generate my grenade a lot faster and increase melee range and damage, and melee final blows extend the duration of my overshield. It's a nice little combination that allows me to keep my abilities pretty much all the time, keep an overshield pretty much all the time, and I just really like it. So it makes this build really nice for endgame type content. Then we've got Echo of Instability. This is going to give me volatile rounds. I'm running double Void weapons, so this is very helpful there. And then my Void Grenades weaken targets as well. This is nice against bosses. Then we've got the Echo of Harvest to generate Orbs of Power and Void Breaches. And then finally, Void Breaches and Orbs of Power granting Devour. So I'm healing very consistently and having an overshield. It's really difficult to die with this build consistently just because of how strong it is defensively, but also you can weaken enemies, you can stay alive with Devour and the overshield, and you can output a lot of damage as well. So it's just a nice all-around build, especially when you're playing with randoms, because you don't know what they're running. You can't coordinate builds, so this can do a little bit of everything and help you stay alive, which is huge. I'm running Parting of Dust. This is going to allow me to use the disorienting grenades to blind enemies consistently. It also does a healthy chunk of damage with Vorpal Weapon as well. Then we've got Graviton Lance. This is one of my favorite exotics in the season right now just because it's hilarious. The Void projectiles kill an insane amount of enemies. Just the ad clear is very, very nice. You can swap this out if you need something like a Void auto rifle or something like that for champions, but without champions in content, this is one of the best PvE exotics in the game right now. It is hilarious. I use it in the new returning Crota's End raid as well, and it just absolutely slaps. And then finally, I've got my Retrofit Escapade with 4th times in target lock. This does really, really nice damage, and I just absolutely love it. So it's one of my favorite heavy machine guns in the entire game. I use it very consistently, and I think against Tormentors especially, it's one of the best. You can use linear fusions as well, but since they've gotten a nerf, I just find that the Retrofit is just a better option overall because it's just more consistent for me in outputting the damage. So that's why I like it so much, and it's very nice against bosses and more consistent against Tormentor type bosses than rockets or grenades or anything like that. As far as the mods go, I'm running hands-on, heavy ammo finder, Void Siphon, firepower heavy-handed, melee damage resist, solar damage resist because it was extra solar damage when I was doing this, and then charged up. Then finally, double Void Weapon Surge and Invigoration, and Outreach, Distribution, and Reaper. Essentially, I want to be creating Orbs of Power all the time. Obviously, that's going to give me extended uptime on my Devour. And then, while I'm playing, I can actually keep my overshield up pretty consistently by dropping barricades every few seconds. And then also, just doing melee damage and getting melee kills will also increase the uptime of my overshields. Overall, this is one of those builds that I can take pretty much everywhere in the game. Yes, I will need to tinker with the weapons just a little bit, depending on if I have to take on champions. But other than that, it is so consistently good that it allows me to use my super for a long time. You can really keep your super up quite a bit if you have spawning enemies consistently. You can use your Graviton Lance for ad clear. It's just very nice overall. You can blind some of the bigger ads, especially enemies that are chasing you down. You see ogres or wizards or something like that that's going to do heavy chunk damage to you. and having them blinded so your allies can stay alive is also rather huge. So overall, this combination is one that I think works very, very well, and I highly recommend trying it out for yourself. A lot of the builds that I make are really meant for players who are playing solo and jumping into content with either randoms or with solo yourself, so you're not going to have any teammates to rely on. So you need to kind of take care of every option as far as damage, as far as staying alive, as far as ad clear. So that's one of the things that I like to focus on with my builds. It's just that versatility, because in my opinion, a lot of times these builds, when people put out a build, it's like all focused on boss damage for like a raid boss or something like that, which is all well and good, but that's not the majority of the content in this game. You can take a build like this into Gambit, into seasonal activities, into Nightfalls, into pretty much everything in the game, and it can have success even in raids. All you might need to tinker again with the heavy you're using for the boss damage, depending on if you need a sword, or you can toss on a falling guillotine. It will work well with this build. You can throw on a rocket launcher, and it will work well with this build. So I think that versatility is absolutely key, and something that I don't think a lot of people making builds really worry about all too often. They are really focused on just max DPS and just doing as much damage as possible, whereas for the majority of players in the game, staying alive is absolutely massive. You need to stay alive. If you're struggling to do that, you need a build that's going to help you in that regard. So having Overshields and Devour all the time is absolutely massive. And you also need to be able to contribute across a bunch of different types of gameplay, you know, whether it is waves of ads, whether it is single target enemies, whether it is enemies that have weak points, or whatever the case may be. So I just find it interesting when I'm looking at different builds across the internet and why some builds kind of stand out more than others. For me, I really enjoy this one. I think it's very good. I'm going to make another Void build as well that I'm going to show off, that's specifically for like Nightfalls and stuff, that is really using the second chance gauntlets instead of this. Some people don't like second chance gauntlets, but for me personally, I've gotten really consistent with the shield throw in order to allow me to really maximize that exotic. So that's why I personally really like using it as well, and I actually used it for some day one raids in the past as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me going forward. I really appreciate all the support lately. I've been doing a lot of variety content, and I'm going to continue doing that going forward, just because I really find joy in that, and no single game can keep me interested 24/7, so that's why I'm throwing in like Armored Core, Cyberpunk, and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, my name is JoPa. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff, and I'll catch you all later.